So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first CPD live session of 2026. We're really pleased to be joined by Danielle Long this morning, who will be exploring the future of TEFL in a digital world. Danielle brings a wealth of experience in language education and digital learning, and we're really looking forward to a session full of insights and practical takeaways. If you are attending live for the session, you'll receive 1 CPD credit, and I will send you all the link to get your certificate after the event. And I will then, as I said just before I started recording, that I will send the link to the recording after the session as well, probably within a day or so. So thank you for joining us, and Danielle, over to you.
Hi, so I'm Danny, and it's a privilege to be asked to do this because I've spent a lot of my time over the past 15 years really researching TEFL and what it really is to learn English as a second language. So in my first year of teaching, I was kind of thrown into it. I was working in Dubai, my first full year in a classroom. I had 9 children that spoke 9 different languages. I had a full classroom of 25, but I had 9 children in there that spoke total different languages, no English at all. It was a kindergarten class, so they were also in their first ever year of school. So you can imagine it was carnage. So I had to do a lot of sort of self-investment because there wasn't really any support, because you expect it when you live in a foreign country. You expect children not to speak English. But I was also expected to get them to a level of English where they were able to learn. My second year of teaching, I had 25 kids. 21 of them were boys, 4 of them were girls, and only 3 of them spoke English, and that was in China. So it's kind of been learning about TEFL and learning about how to teach English as additional language has kind of been not an option to not learn it, because I was in a position where I had all these kids that had little to no English, and I still had all of these educational expectations. I soon grew to sort of love that though, because every day was different, and I got to sort of watch their growth. And by the end of the academic years, they were flying ahead. So that was obviously way back in the day, very long time ago. So we didn't have AI, we didn't have anything, there wasn't really any PowerPoints even that would have translations, and all of the pedagogy and all of the advice I got was that just speak English to them. Obviously this doesn't work. And get a visual learning book, that was also it. So every single time anyone needed the bathroom, they were pointing to the toilet on the board, but doing a little toilet dance that every other child did. So it's about finding the right ways. Okay, the advice that was out there and every book that I read was pretty useless. So I've spent a lot of time sort of investing in not only myself, but in sort of the different languages too, because what I found with children that spoke French, European languages, it was actually a lot harder because of the way that the language is spoken. So not having subject, object, verb was actually harder because we were having to change totally the way that they think. So I'm going to show you my wonderful AI video.
My name is Danny. I'm a professional TEFL tutor and specialise in English as an additional language. I have 12 years experience teaching English, and I am here for all of your language needs. Please book a demo with me. I would love to join you on your learning journey.
With the use of AI, I can now speak in any language or support any learner. 但人工智能真的会取代人类教师吗？
So this is something that I did not create, but my team in the office, they created this. So this is probably not the first time you've seen something like this. It will kind of lead into what I'm going to say about sort of basic TEFL learning. But it's very easy now for big companies to create videos where they speak bilingually, which supports basic English language learning, which was when I started to tutor online completely, fully 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was what basically all I did was teach basic English to children and adults. But now there's so much out there that this is kind of becoming redundant. And it's also out there very cheaply too. So that there's plenty for people to access, even in a short period of time. So the future of TEFL in the digital world. So obviously TEFL tutoring isn't dying. It's kind of just being unbundled. That teacher Zoom PDF worksheet platform is kind of just in the past. And if you think about how we sort of want British education to be, we'd want teachers to be incorporating AI and what they have to, you know, bring our own children in schools up to date. So we have to expect that it's going to happen with online tutoring too. So there's lots of different language platforms that people use, especially for basic first steps of English. So TalkPal, English, AI, Jump Speaks and Speak. There's tons more, but you might have heard of any of these. Have any of you guys used any of these or seen any of these before? So these are all things that exist in the background that students are using to learn that pre-A1, A1 content. So later on, I'll talk about sort of what the future looks like for us as tutors, and how these are sort of impacting us as well. So the next decade belongs to tutors who do what AI can't. So real-time judgment, motivation, identity building, accountability, high stakes. I think it's good to remember that AI is good at language, you're good at people. AI supports learning, you support learners. So it's not going to take over anytime soon. So what do you guys already use AI for? If you do.
No, don't.
Hi.
I don't use AI.
Okay.
I use it for everything, like meal planning. It's my assistant.
You used it recently, Sam, didn't you, to pack? Is that right?
Yeah. Packing lists for children. It's perfect.
Callie says social media. Yeah, all of my life. Yeah. So lots of us will use it for everything. Lots of us will not have used it at all before. Does anybody use it for planning lessons? Yes, Callie, planning lessons, writing model text. Obviously, Callie, I know you do a lot of TEFL. You did the talk a couple of years ago about TEFL teaching, which I attended. Yeah, it's something that you have to sort of spend a lot of sort of time investing in yourself to sort of get used to how it works. What if you're not using AI? What platforms or what are you using to teach your English at the moment?
I've been an online TEFL tutor for over 14 years, long before this technology.
Yeah.
We had dial-up internet. Yeah, no, it's that long. Do I use AI? Yep. I don't work with kids. I specialize in the IELTS test with relationship to writing and to speaking, pronunciation, etc. I use AI for grading writing according to the writing descriptors from IELTS. I use it a little bit for class preparation, but I use a lot of other platforms as well. For example, off to class videos and things like that.
Do you find off to class quite repetitive?
I don't use it so much for actual classes unless it's specific. My main use of it is for placement tests.
Yeah.
They have one of the best placement tests, and you can identify right away where the grammar issues are. Sorry, it's been a long day and it's only 10 o'clock. I don't work with people in their own language. They come for English.
Yep.
Not to teach me, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
My clients come from Japan through to Brazil, a lot in China.
Yeah.
I use DeepSeek for when I'm doing stuff in China because it has more access to pick up information. It's not blocked off like the others are. I mean, if you look at the Chinese market, I did a lot of research over the last couple of weeks. It's estimated that at any one time, there are 2 million people in China studying for IELTS.
Yeah.
It's a huge market. How do you get to it? That's the problem.
Yeah, so that's it, isn't it? How do we get to it? Because the Chinese market is huge, but also there's a lot of there are a lot of apps. There are a lot of things that they can access to support their learning by themselves. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're good apps or they're good learning support, but they do it anyway. So I saw that someone uses it to check for plagiarism. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Proofreading, creating images, and then I saw someone uses it for making EL word maths, review new words, etc. So, Sonia, do you use AI to create those? Because the ones that you find online, like for example in Twinkle, that they're not good enough, or they're just sort of repetitive language. Sonia, yeah. Let's put it
I just use it to make it more bespoke, really.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of when you're having speaking and listening, different words will come up that aren't just on a word map. So it's kind of making the lesson bespoke to the ideas they want to express.
Yeah, exactly that. So I always find that my TEFL students, I also teach English and math. So I always find my TEFL students, they are a lot more work than my English and maths because of the actual resources that are available. However, using AI is obviously making that a lot better now. So when you guys get the presentation things, you'll see all those different sites. So all those different sites that I mentioned before also have assessment tools. So I'm going to talk about, yes, there is after class. It is brilliant, and it gives you massive insight into where the gaps are. Very, very specific, but it's also 2 hours long, if a little bit more. The thing that we always get when we use the after classes, you never know if someone is helping them to do that. Because it's so long, you normally don't do it in class. I know you can give them grammar first, and then you don't have to choose everything from go, but they're not always great for students, especially students that are pre-A1. It's pointless. So Duolingo have been developing a test now. I'm sure I used Duolingo in this because I was positive that every single person here would have heard of it, downloaded it, probably picked French, tried to learn a little bit of French or Mandarin if you're teaching English students in China. Everybody would probably have had a go at this and have seen it, that little bird that sends you little notifications on your phone to tell you haven't done whatever learning you've signed up to. So they've been kind of looking at this test, the pre-testing, quite in depth for a long time. It obviously got a lot more sort of traction over COVID because people had a lot more time. I had 70 Chinese students during COVID. It was my busiest time and most manic time as well. So the English proficiency test has kind of is shifted completely from what we used to do, right? And Duolingo's English test is accepted by tons of programs all over the country as well, and they've put a lot of effort into it. So It's taken almost in over 40,000 locations over the world, and you can see on this heat map where the biggest sort of places are and where it's being used. But this is just one example. Yes, there's after class, there's other examples too. So what is AI? So AI is obviously different to everybody. It means different things to different people. It's used by pupils to learn. It's used by teachers to help teaching activities, grading. It's used by admin staff to manage learner data. The biggest thing that I use it for right now, because I have quite a lot of English and math students, is I've created a system where it marks papers that students have written. I created an AI in ChatGPT where I put in tons and tons of answers to Macbeth, say, that I've had submitted over the years from many students. I've put in lots of past papers in there, put in the grading system, and what it'll do is it'll mark it for me. Do I only use that to mark? No. I still look over things, but does it take a lot of, it gives me a lot of time, take a lot of the work away? Yes, it does. Does anybody else use it for anything sort of similar like that?
I use primarily, well, I did use ChatGPT to a certain extent, but I use Gemini a lot now.
Yeah.
If you've got the prompt right, it can do far better what you say.
Yeah.
As I say, DeepSeek can be very helpful in my markets.
Yeah.
Can I just mention there is a new one has come out called the Oxford Test of English.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's heard about it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of advantages. The big disadvantage is you have to take it in a controlled computer room, and
Yeah.
these have to be set up, and that's why I don't use it at the moment, because they don't have enough worldwide.
Yeah, so Pauline just said that she likes to mark things herself to detect strengths and challenges. Yes, I do too, but running it through kind of gives me also peace of mind, especially if you've got a student that's sort of on the cusp of 6, 7, 7, 8. You know, my children would have just gone mad there, because I said 6, 7, by the way, but a new thing that they all love. It is useful because putting in the mark scheme and things, you kind of get a more in-depth sort of review of what they're missing too. And I do find that really useful, and it does help with time. Okay. So using it as a tool rather than a replacement. So obviously we know that it's good enough to handle the repetitive work. There's lots of stuff that I used to spend hours lesson planning. If I think about how many hours this would have saved me when I was a classroom teacher, it's crazy. Report writing especially. You know, using it, AI notes. Does anybody use AI notes when they write notes up for lessons? Zoom is a great platform when you teach lessons because it generates AI notes. They're not always accurate. They include lots of, you know, it doesn't have that human touch. If you start talking to someone about, you know, if they mention a teacher at school, it'll include that in. Yeah. So give it a try. You know, develop, put into it, and create that ChatGPT where it will mark, and just see how well it does. You know, it's about finding that sort of the best way to get it to work for you. I also actually, because I like to have that personal feelers, I put in past examples that students had written with my own feedback in. So it picked up how I mark and how I give feedback. So it was totally trained to my teaching style. So the good thing that we can use AI for is obviously drilling grammar and vocabulary expansion, and just that instant sort of feedback, because if you're teaching children, that's what they're used to now. Everything is instant. If you give them feedback the next day or 3 days later or the next lesson, they're not really interested. And writing feedback and like correction cycles and things like that, it kind of, it can personalize sort of homework and things for you to how you teach. So I'm not sure if any of you guys use the British Council. It has had a massive revamp over the past few years. It used to be very 90s videos, like people in suits. Hello, I'm a receptionist. My name is this. How can I help you today? It was very Rosetta Stone. That's what it was like. But now it's had a big revamp in it, and they do have great materials on there. So they use AI already for lots of things. So speaking through voice assistants, automatic speech recognition, pronunciation tools, tons of things. And they use it a lot for the ALT planning, developing quizzes. So they really, you know, it's starting to be implemented in a lot of the things that we use every day. So if you're selling conversation practice as your value, you're about to be undercut by AI tools, because that's the biggest thing that is being developed right now. So being able to get pure accents without a pure language without that accent and things, that these are tools that are being developed right now in the background. Actually, can I ask before we keep going, is anybody worried about AI and the impact it's going to have on your teaching?
No, because AI is a tool. It's not a replacement.
It is.
I was asked to give a lecture, an online lecture to a university in Moscow last year, which I did. And they have a lot of English teachers at that university. And the topic was AI will not replace teachers or tutors. It won't. AI has no feeling. It can't properly teach pronunciation.
Yeah.
There is a program called magicschool.ai in America. It's a fantastic tool. There's too much on it. It's free, but it's used by thousands of schools in America. But their speech thing is not that good. No. You go to ChatGPT, you're going to get primarily an American accent to start off with. I'm sorry, I don't work on American English. It's British English I use. And it's not 100% reliable. When it's checking or doing proofreading, it doesn't understand particularly punctuation. It gets that wrong many times. So I would not rely on it for 100%. I have put a video together for my students to show them how to get onto ChatGPT purely to practice.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my students,
that it's a good tool though for them to be able to invest in their own learning. Say if they want to just do practice introductions to essays and things like that, because obviously a lot of students, they're not just they're past the learning, you know, colours, animals, places, clothes. They're wanting to pass their IELTS. They're wanting to improve their like creative writing, especially if they're doing IGCSEs and things where Shakespeare can be really difficult. Those AI tools are fantastic, because if they use them properly, they will be able to learn from them.
Yeah.
But it's not a replacement. Totally, not a replacement.
And it's relatively easy if you know your students to tell in the writing whether they've used AI or not.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you can make it perfectly clear to them. My answer is quite simple. Use AI if you want. I've got news for you. You won't have it in the exam.
Yeah, exactly that. So we recently had a homeschool student who was using AI during a live lesson to answer questions. And it kind of, you get a suspicion you don't want to accuse. So one of the tutors called us and she was like, I think they might be using AI to answer things. So I said, right, let's not say you are, let's ask her. No, I would never do that. So there's kind of like, you have to be very careful with how much power you actually give them to, because they can get away with it. And look, we're working with teenagers that can't be bothered, that have been at school all day, that have 17,000 pieces of homework, and you know they're going to do what they can to get by. But yeah, if they use it properly, it's a great thing, and it's something that I could only imagine having while I did my exams and things. When I did my GCSEs and A-levels and things, it would have been fantastic. So let's have a look at Kelly. One thing I experienced recently on the topic of conversation practice, I set one of my students, 8 years old, a task: interview someone in English outside of our lesson. He used an AI conversation tool to do the homework. See, recording both him asking the questions and responding to the AI's responses. Fantastic. Future leader, 8 years old and working out how to do that. Love that. So the British Council have done obviously a lot of research, Duolingo have done a lot of research, all those big companies have done tons of research into this. There's a lot of papers, a lot of articles and things that are being written about AI and how it's affected TEFL learning. 1,348 English language teachers from 118 countries and territories to understand their views on AI teaching. So this is what they said. So the survey found that most used AI tools by teachers were as follows: language learning apps, language generation AI, chatbots, automated grading, speech recognition software, text-to-speech tools. So that's exactly what your student did, Kelly. Data and learning analytic tools, and virtual augmented reality tools. So all of these things here are things that we use as teachers. But as we just said before, these are also things that the students are using to power their language skills, to get ahead of the game, especially those that want to learn, those that want to improve, like they want to go from a 6 to a 7 for their IELTS marks. They need to get into university. They need to understand. They're using all of these things in the background. So this is something we always kind of have to have in the back of our mind, that all the things that we have available to us, so do they. So 24% of teachers said they did not use AI tools. I mean, Sam said in the beginning, Callie said, others said they use it in their lives for everything. I don't use it in my life for everything. Maybe I should. Maybe I'd be more organized. I'm moving house in like 10 days and nothing's packed. Maybe I might make a chat GPT how to pack my house in 7 days. That might help me. So creating materials, helping students practice English, creating lesson plans, correcting students' English, and grading, assessing, and administrative tasks. What teachers are using this for. So I want everyone to open up ChatGPT for me, and I want to see how quickly ChatGPT can create a lesson. So you could put in the ChatGPT something very, very, very simple. Create B1 lesson for a Chinese student who struggles with adverbs and pronouns. Include a speaking activity. So let's see, you can change it to anything you want. Put that into ChatGPT, see if you can create a lesson plan. So I have just created one. I then at the end asked it to put it into a PowerPoint, and it did. I don't even have to open it in the PowerPoint. You can open it up in ChatGPT. Yes, it's very plain and blank, It has the practice pronouns and adverbs because they were the things I said my student couldn't work on. And it has a speaking task that is generated, and it has a model example at the end too. Has anybody else created their own mini lesson plan?
Yeah.
So if we think about 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I was creating PowerPoints. So just like someone said before, that so that they're personalized from lessons before, like words that, you know, aren't on word maps. I was sitting for hours doing things like this. So the fact that I can create that basis and I can open that up in PowerPoint and make it look nice in the background, and also kind of make students as well feel like it's personalized, that it's for them. You know, I can put a background in of Pikachu if that's what they're interested in. It gives it that personal feel, but it's something so easy that would have took us a long time before. If you tell it to put images in, it will. Tell it to put flashcards in, it will. Anything. Tell it to have a blue background with a rainbow, it'll do that for you. Now, I would have spent hours and hours doing this many moons ago. Okay, it's just taking a little while to move. There we are. So any teaching tool can have a negative impact if not used correctly, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Using AI to create a conversation, Callie, is quite possibly one of my favorite stories. And I can imagine many of my students doing that too. And as you said, if you know your students well and they give you something, you can tell whether they are writing homework responses using AI or not. And I always tell my students that, especially my GCSE students, you are doing yourself no favors by using AI to write your first response. However, submitting what you first read and then using AI to help you to improve it and give you step-by-step improvements is what you should be doing. So, key findings were 1,112 teachers rated a number of statements about an AI in English language teaching. Some teachers also wrote comments to explain their ratings too. So, teachers are using AI-powered tools for a range of tasks in English language teaching. So, teachers feel AI benefits the development of all 4 English language skills fairly equally. Teachers have mixed feelings about how AI affects learning. Some think it impacts their learners' English development negatively, and others see it more positively. So on that statement, who thinks it negatively affects learning rather than positively? Any feedback? Has anybody used it enough to be able to say, or even think about how maybe you could change the way you're teaching now and how it might positively impact? I think the positive impact for me is that it reduces my planning time, it reduces my marking time. But I still have that human touch. I still get to have that connection with my students. I still know them very well, even though I'm taking away those tasks from me, from my week. It means I get to spend a lot more time with my own children. And that's the kind of positive impact it has for me. Even, for example, even writing emails, sometimes I don't realize that I'm being a little passive aggressive. So then I asked ChatGPT, is this email a little passive aggressive? And it says, yes, would you like me to make it nicer for you? And I go, yes, please. So now I've just started writing, make this less angry. And those are the types of things, you know, that kind of do help. I don't know if anybody else uses it in that way. I obviously, I send a lot of emails. So it kind of, you know, it's a great tool when you're speaking to people and things as well. The other side of that I think is the negative side of it is for example, like Sam using it for packing and me using it for packing and using for it to organise, why can't we think for ourselves? Are we going to create a generation of children that cannot think for themselves because they're using AI to do that for them?
I don't think it's the not thinking for yourself though. I think it's the fact that like we are still only one person.
Yeah.
And I think that as, I don't know, like my semi-problem is that we're expected to, like we used to live in very small communities and we'd only have so many people in our networks and we'd be able to keep up with all of them because we'd be walking down the street, right? And now we have this whole like global network and we all have many skills because we can read more information and learn more things. And it's just a lot more than any one person can process. And I think especially being a mum and somebody who has a job, it's like they are both full-time jobs and I can't do everything at the same time either. So I think it's just using that to just help with the processing power. And it just makes it a lot shorter. Like, for example, trying to figure out a meal that we all want to eat with like in a spectrum household, it's also going to be healthy because we need to feed healthy food and not just beige food. And there are just so many competing factors and trying to get that right is really difficult. But
I think it really helps with a lot of my children who are on the spectrum. I think they find it a huge help in their learning, because I have a parent who struggles to get their child to do any homework because just because of all of their different needs, they just find it really difficult where it starts. So she's developed a ChatGPT where it gives them their first sentence, and like she's put in a ton of information, a ton of past writing and a ton of things about her child, and all she does is literally put the homework question in and then he's able to actually do it. Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Rita. Hi, Rita.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm good. I think AI, as you say, it's a new tool. And with any new tool, it takes a little while to get used to. And when we are juggling, as Sam says, a lot of other things, it's still taking us time to figure out how and what we want to do with it when we do use it. However, I think in time, when technology advances, which it will in very short time, it will be, you know, just like using the end of our hands. You know, we'll be able to figure out what we want a lot faster and integrate a lot more of what we want it to do into our time, into our limited time, and be able to do a lot more with it with that way. I think it's the learning curve of using a new tool when you get it home and figuring out how it's going to help you.
Yeah. Rita, you've got a great AI voice, actually.
I am actually a voiceover artist and I train AI.
Yeah. So you've got a great AI voice. I can see you in the future being on some AI video with your perfect AI voice. I like that.
Well done for spotting that, because it is actually my other profession. So it is what I do in my spare time, having fun.
Yeah. So I actually recently, in my own personal life, while having a discussion with my 16-year-old, I said, if you wanted to learn how to do it, you would find a way. You would Google it. She's like, Mum, people don't Google things anymore. We use ChatGPT. I went, well, ChatGPT, how to use a tin opener.
Yeah.
Because I'm not showing you again. And she did. She went off and did it. And I said to her, see, was that difficult? No, it wasn't. It wasn't that difficult. And she knows, like, these things are out there. And, you know, I'm just going to stop sharing because for some reason my presentation has gone blank. But yeah, she knows these. If she wanted to learn, I mean, my children can cut videos. They can push videos together. They can make themselves look like different things. But they find tasks like using tin openers difficult. But they know where to find the information to do all of these things that, to me, seem absolutely outrageous. When I lived in China. I was a classroom teacher there, so I was creating videos because I was still teaching during lockdown, my whole class online. So I was working opposite time shifts to my children, going, going to school or doing homeschooling. And I was trying to create a video, an alphabet video. We went to Alphabet Woods in the Lake District, and I was trying to push it together. And my then, I think she was 7-year-old, said to me, "Oh, Mum, just give me your phone." And she did it in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Crushed that whole video together, made it look absolutely amazing. There was things flying all over the place. And I just thought, the world is going crazy. Like, how are you able to do that? But, you know, she has the same tools out there that I do. And it's about sort of being open-minded and finding out what's out there and, you know, using it for the better, because it's only going to help you, really.
And I think we've grown up in a totally different time.
Oh, yeah.
Of being afraid of trying to do new things, or figuring out is taking us a lot more time, whereas they have no fear. They just throw themselves in there and they find what they need a lot faster than we would in the methods that we would go in our brain processing the things to get there.
I'm just refreshing my PowerPoint because it went black for some reason. I don't know why, but hopefully it will open again. Yes. Right. Let's go down to where we were. Okay, so just going to skip through parts that we've already looked at. Sorry about that. See, technology is not always great. I think we were here. Yeah. Can everybody see it now? Is that on presentation mode? Not sure if it is.
It's not in, it's just in like normal screen share, so we can see the tabs on the side as well.
Okay. Let's let it catch up. I should also add that I live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere, so sometimes my Wi-Fi cannot keep up with what I do online. Right. Code.
It's sharing now.
Yeah. Okay, so where humans win. So I guess this is the big thing. A couple of years ago, so I work for the National Learning Group, and Oliver is a massive AI, just he loves it, everything. He loves to create AI things. I'm not sure if any of you follow us on Facebook, but he created over Halloween a video where everything was moving in the office from the actual security cameras, posted it on our social media. And that's what he does for fun, just that for fun. And yeah, that's kind of sort of beyond me, not something I'm interested in. I can remember being at school and I took one of my GCSEs, I took like woodwork, and everyone was creating their like portfolios that you had to do in a PowerPoint, and I was absolutely against that. I hand drew all of mine, spent hours and hours doing it. I was the only one in class that did that because I just hated computers. And it's funny to think that because now I use them every day. So I guess it's about embracing the future and sort of knowing what's coming as well, especially with the voice recognition. Right now, obviously the AI speaking sort of conversational things, they're not 100% up to scratch, but they are getting there. And as Kylie's students already worked out how to do, he can have a conversation with an AI bot rather than go out and actually have a conversation with a human being. So where do we win? So diagnosing what's really wrong. So you're not just fixing all those surface errors, because that's what AI does. It sees all that surface things, but it doesn't pick up that human element. Sequencing learning as well, because you could tell ChatGPT you could give them all the information in the world about a student and tell them to personalize something, and then do it again with other information on another student. They'd be pretty similar. And it's given that immediate sort of reinforcement, isn't it, of consistency and building confidence, correcting those mistakes that learners have repeated for years, especially if they've learned somewhere else before you, or used AI actually to learn before they came to you. And pushing people through things and holding people accountable, because AI does not do that. If you say to an AI bot, oh, I'm really busy today, and I know I've got my IELTS on Saturday, but I'm so exhausted, and it's about being able to encourage and push people to do things. So it's an evolution, it's not a replacement. So the winning TEFL tutors will look less like a teacher and more like a performance coach, a curriculum designer, a cultural and professional mentor, and a test and outcome specialist. So these are the things that I've had to change within my own sort of teaching and business as well, to remain relevant and successful, because a lot of students will drop off because they're getting that extra AI, extra basic English through AI. So in 2026 plus, the most profitable TEFL tutoring, I think, will look like this. So high margin niches, so where humans still dominate, business English for specific roles. We get a lot of inquiries for specific business roles from doctors, from people who want interview practice for Cambridge to do certain subjects, but again, that's for specific business roles. Your IELTS and your TOEFL, you do that testing and things like that. It doesn't have to be doing it, got to be anything. Interview English, so real hiring simulations and things. This is what it looks like. It's not just about that basic English anymore. And also accent reduction for clarity as well. We get a lot of parents from the younger children that say I ask them, you know, what kind of tutor are you looking for? Because obviously it has to be the right fit for them, but also you. And a lot of them say, we want someone that sounds like the Queen. We want the Queen's English. We want somebody that sounds exactly like they're from London. London's big place. But these are the requests that you get. And you're almost having to sort of, if you're a single sole trader, you're selling yourself. And sometimes it feels like a kick in the teeth, especially if you've been doing it for a really long time. So academic writing as well, English and writing, like structure and argument and discipline and things like that, they're all going to be things that people are looking for. And sort of regulated context, so real sort of stakes, right? So general English is kind of becoming that lost leader. It's a subscription product that people they're not coming to us for anymore. So the new sort of TEFL project is very hybrid. It's AI plus a human coach, right? It's AI handling all that daily practice and feedback. Human tutors handling weekly correction, strategy, pressure, and testing, okay? And the tutors using AI to generate custom materials instantly. So this is exactly what we were saying before about word maps and things. You are generating something that is specifically for your student. Now, every single one of us has probably sold ourselves as personalized learning. This is personalized learning, using AI to actually influence our students individually, personalized. So it's exactly the direction sort of TEFL companies are pushing as well. AI integrated courses, personalization, automation. Has anybody ever heard of Century before? They have been to some of the conferences for TTA. So they can be used for any year group, English, math, science. I think there's history, there's geography there too. And what it does is Century Tech, Kelly. So it does like a pre-testing, gets the students' knowledge, and this is not for TEFL, but it could be you're studying for your stats. It has everything that the student needs to know, and every single time you do a lesson, it changes the pathway. So it uses AI in the background to change the pathway, change the pathway, change the pathway, change your next lesson. It can teach the same lesson 5 different times. So say you taught a lesson to your students and then not getting it, you then have to think of another way to teach that the same content again that isn't going to be boring because they didn't get it the first time. Century literally just does that for you. A lot of international students use it in schools. Yes, they do. They use it in schools for sure. Now, if something like this were to, if you guys have a look at Century, because it's kind of difficult to explain when you don't have it in front of you, but it's very sort of thin. It has overlays for children that have dyslexia, dyscalculia. Okay, different colors as well. You can change the writing, you can change the font, you can change everything so that it appeals to everyone. And it literally just AIs in the background. And it just says analyzing after every lesson. Now, I did used to use this as a support tool, but I found like very disengaged because I didn't feel like I was teaching anymore. Felt like it was doing a lot of the work. So I stopped using it. However, my students still use it in the background as support tools. So do I think things like that are going to take our jobs away? No. But if you have parents who struggle to afford lessons and things like that, do I think it's a positive alternative? Yes. So we have to be aware of these things that are around and go into things like the TTA conferences and stuff and seeing all of those stats and the different technology that is around is really, really, really helpful because I didn't know Century Tech existed until 2 years ago. Okay, so let's just have a look at the next part. So the big risk for tutors is obviously cheap tutors getting commoditized. Okay, so there's more tutors than demand right now, and AI substitutes for a lot of entry-level tutors, entry-level parts. They're there, and also pricing. So if you're charging £15 an hour and teaching general generic English, then you're sitting in a danger zone right now because AI that's where it's coming from. It's coming for that general generic English. So we need to kind of change the way that we are and change our sort of the outcome of our business from evolve from tutor to, specialisms and productize. Okay, using AI openly as well to add value to what you do. A lot of contracts that we use for the council, they'll ask us if we use AI as in a positive light to give sort of more accurate gap analysis and things. They think that type of AI can definitely do a better job than we can to track outcomes and things like that. So general English tutors, it becomes low value and it's very crowded right now. The niche high stakes English is it becomes premium. Tutors who refuse AI will kind of lose out on students because your students are using it regardless if you are. And tutors who use AI but don't specialize might be at risk. And tutors who specialize and productize and use AI and show outcomes will start to dominate. Now, I chose China because it's what I know. It's what I work in every day. I manage the Asia department for NLG. I also work on council contracts too. So I use that as an example because it's something that I know very well. So obviously the Asia pipeline is still strong. I think John mentioned earlier how many students in China are actually looking every single day for tuition. So it's strong, but it's not TEFL anymore. So cheap tutors, AI platform, large platforms, and parents who constantly churn providers. So you will meet those parents. I'm sure you all met with parents who constantly churn and they struggle to ever find the right person for my son, daughter. It happens, okay? So parents don't buy English in China, they buy future success. So you need to position yourself where you're giving them an outcome of tutoring. So the winners now in the TEFL world, the English language world, are UK school entries, international school performances, IELTS, TEFL sources, TEFL scores, interview performance, confidence with speaking fluency under pressure, and British cultural fluency as well. So you need to pick one. So Asia isn't one market. There are plenty to go around. But you need to pick what you specialize in. Because word of mouth is everything. And if you specialize in something and you have gotten results in that specialism, then you will find that you will not need to spend any money on marketing. People will come to you. So the pipeline is, it starts with that trust, okay? Parents do not buy from strangers in China, okay? They want proof. They want results. They want testimonials. They want before and afters, okay? They want to see all of this. Students normally stay between 6 and 24 months. If they're correct, I have a student in China who's been with me for 5 years. And it's about building that trust with parents. Do any of you guys that are still here, do you teach in China at all? I know Callie does, and obviously John said that he did. But there's a huge market out there. It's just about getting it right. So I'm sure this will apply to lots of different markets too, but China is the one that I work in most. So this is kind of how you get into it if you're not into it already. So education agents, they obviously already have parents, okay? And they sell on your behalf. Yes, they take a cut, but it's a good way to get in because it then becomes word of mouth. Set up a WeChat account, join WeChat groups and referral loops. They are 100% more beneficial than ads are. If you get one mum on board that is like a Chinese mum, as we call them, they're on it. They're hot. They're literally, all they care is about their future of their children. You will end up with 20 students because if they like you, they will set up your entire business. So you can use independent tools as well. Contact them. Follow people that work as head teachers on LinkedIn in China. Like, make that network. And then, as I just said, educational mum accounts. They are huge, all right? They have a strong proof of assets. The way I started, actually, I was still teaching my class in China in August 2021, I think. And one of the parents said to me, when on the last lesson, would you continue tutoring my son? I said, sure. She told someone at a play date that I was tutoring them. I then got my second student, and then I got my third the next day, and then I ended up with 16 students immediately. So, and they weren't all people from my class, they were just literally word of mouth because they knew me, and that is super important. So, Pauline, oh yeah, so you teach face-to-face with refugees new to English. So yeah, I worked on a big project in my village. I taught face-to-face English to Ukrainian refugees. It's a different world. It's difficult, it's time-consuming, but very rewarding. And AI will definitely be a massive help to what you're doing for sure. So pricing is reality is real. So if you're going in, I mean, sometimes in your head you think, okay, if I go in lower, then they're going to be more likely to take lessons with me. Actually, in an Asian market, they'll say that as a weakness. If you go in at £15 an hour, you're disposable, okay, to Chinese parents, okay? It gives you a low status, and that's how they will view your teaching. So you have to really go in there selling yourself, okay? 35, £6 an hour equivalent is that's what the parents are spending, okay? Because obviously now we're out of COVID, there's a lot of people who are teaching in China that are tutoring that shouldn't be, because it's against law, but they are. And they can make £200 a lesson. So offering programs, 8-12-week programs, group sessions, is really sort of, that's where you're going to be, pushing your business from. If they want ongoing support and things, like they want things marked and they want instant responses, these are retainers. It's not an expectation, okay? But Chinese parents will push you if that's the market you're looking in. So you've got to stand firm on what you believe and what you can offer. Okay. So biggest risks, obviously I said China's difficult without trust. So it might take you a little while to break that market if that's what you're looking to do. However, once you have gotten in with one very high-powered mum, and she's got you on a WeChat group, that's it. You're there for life. Okay. Tutor intro videos are super important. Having that calm sort of British tone as well initially is very important. Testimonials and things, examples of progress reports. You're invisible without these types of things, okay? All right, so that's the end of my talk. Are there any questions? Anything that you think I've missed that we need to discuss? No?
Amazing.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. And also you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, you can just drop me a LinkedIn message. And yeah, and I wish you all well. And yeah, it was wonderful. And thank you for this opportunity, Sam. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you everybody for joining our first CPD Live of the year as well. I will email you all very soon with the link to the video and the link to get your CPD certificate as well. So yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.